We're going to talk about volume today. Volume for us, remember, is for three-dimensional objects. Before we get too far into it, you need to know that there's a new symbol involved today. This kind of funky looking letter B is representative of the area of any of our base shapes in our three-dimensional objects that we've been talking about in our prisms and in our pyramids. So typing wise, it looks just like a capital B, but when you write it, we need to draw it like the original symbol. So we're going to start off today with volume of a prism. Volume of a prism, remember prisms are named for their base shapes, and they also have a height. So a volume of a prism is just simply the area of the base shape multiplied by the height. And when I look at that symbolically, it's V equals capital B times H. So first I have a pentagonal prism. The area of the pentagon is 15 square inches and the height of the prism is 10 inches. So to find the volume, the area of the base times the height, I simply do the 15 times the 10 and I get 150 cubic inches. Remember, we're talking about three-dimensional objects, so I'm going to be talking about cubic units. So here we've got a cylinder. We're going to treat a cylinder as far as volume is concerned just like we do any other prism, area of the base times the height. But in order to find the area of the base, I need to find the area of the circle that makes up the base shape of my cylinder. So remember, area of the circle is pi r squared. Then I'm going to multiply that by the height of the prism. So I'm going to get pi times our radius, which is 9, squared, times, and the height of the prism itself is 5. When I multiply 9 to the second power, I'm going to get 81 pi times 5. And 81 times 5 is going to give me 405 times pi. Now today we're going to multiply by pi using the pi button on your calculator. We're not any longer going to use just 3.14 for pi. So when I multiply 405 times pi, rounding to the nearest tenth, I would get 1272.3. And since my units are in centimeters, my volume is going to be in cubic centimeters. Now I have a different type of prism, a triangular prism. Again, before we can start, we need to find the area of the base because that's an important part of our volume formula. In this case, with this prism, our base shape is this triangle on the end. Remember that area of a triangle is half of the base times the height. The base and the height of a triangle have to be perpendicular to each other. So the only ones that are perpendicular are the 6 and the 3. Those are the two measurements that we're going to use. 6 times 3 is 18. Half of 18 is 9. So the area of my triangle is 9 square feet. I'm going to use that for the area of the base in my prism. The height of the prism is 8 feet. So when I multiply those together, I get 72 cubic feet for my prism volume. Rectangular prisms are the easiest of all. Since the area of the base, all of the bases are rectangles no matter which way you turn this prism. In this case, I'm going to let the base be that 8 by 11 rectangle on the bottom. So the area of my base is going to be 8 times 11. Then I'm going to times by the height of the prism, which in this case will be 3. In other words, I'm multiplying all 3 dimensions together. And when I multiply 8 times 11 times 3, I get a total of 264 cubic meters. This would be the volume of my rectangular prism. Now on to pyramids. I want you to notice how much the volume of a pyramid is similar to the volume of a prism. We still have the area of the base times the height, just like we did with prisms. The only difference is, after I multiply the area of the base times the height, I'm going to cut that into a third of what it originally was, or in other words, area of the base times the height and then divide by 3. A pyramid takes up a third as much space as a prism does with the same base shape and height. So here we've got a pyramid, a square pyramid. The base is going to be the square at the bottom of the pyramid. So to find the area of the base, I'm going to just simply multiply 32 times itself. So 32 times itself is going to give me 1024. And my area is going to be in square inches. So to find volume, I'm going to do the area of the base times by the height. Now I have 2 heights here, a 30 and a 34. 34 is what we call the slant height. It's not perpendicular to the square that's the bottom of my pyramid. It's simply the height of one of the triangle faces. So the height I want to use is this 30 that's perpendicular to the base of the pyramid. So again, area of the base times the height of the pyramid. When I do the multiplication, I get 30,720. But I'm missing one thing. Yeah, I need to, because it's a pyramid, I need to divide the whole thing by 3. And when I divide by 3, I get a final volume of 10,240 cubic inches. This would be the volume of my pyramid. I can fit 10,240 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch cubes inside this pyramid. Volume of a sphere is the last one we're going to cover today. Its formula looks a little bit different than our other ones. Volume of a sphere is simply 4/3 pi r cubed. R, of course, stands for the radius. And remember, multiplying by 4/3 is the same as multiplying by 4, then dividing by 3. Just to make it a little more simple. So I'm going to have 4/3 times pi. It tells us that our radius is 4, so I'm going to use 4 to the 3rd power. That means 4/3 times pi times 64. So in my calculator, I'm going to take 64. I'm going to multiply it by pi using my pi button. Then I'm going to multiply it by 4 and divide by 3. Rounding to the nearest tenth, I'm going to put my approximate sign in because it's not exact. I'm going to get a total of 268.1. Since my units are miles, I'm going to be talking cubic miles. This would be my final volume. Remember to ask me questions in class. FYI, a hemisphere is half the volume of a sphere. So if I have to find the volume of a hemisphere, I'm going to still use the same formula for volume of a sphere and simply divide it by 2 for a hemisphere. Your assignment is the volume worksheet. Remember to look for the appropriate worksheet for your class. Good luck and have fun.